Most people believe that losing fat is all about eating fewer calories and exercising more, but the truth is fat loss begins with hormone control, and the most important hormone in that equation is insulin. Insulin is like a switch. When it's on, fat is stored. When it's low, fat is burned. No matter how disciplined you are with your calorie intake, if insulin is elevated, your body simply cannot tap into stored fat for fuel. This is why people often feel like they're doing everything right and still not losing weight. Insulin's primary role is to shuttle glucose from the bloodstream into the cells. When you eat carbohydrates, especially refined carbs and sugars, blood sugar rises and insulin is released to bring it down. But here's the problem. When insulin is constantly elevated, your cells become less sensitive to it, leading to insulin resistance. This means your body needs to release even more insulin for the same amount of food, locking you into a fat storing state. And during this state, fat burning is virtually shut off. Every time you eat, especially if you snack often or consume high-carb meals, you stimulate insulin. Frequent eating, even if it's healthy, keeps insulin levels from dropping low enough for fat burning to even begin. That's why one of the most powerful ways to lose fat is not just cutting carbs, but also reducing the frequency of eating. Intermittent fasting is highly effective in this regard because it creates long windows of low insulin, where your body finally has access to its fat stores. Another key factor is hidden insulin triggers. Many people consume foods they believe are healthy, like fruit juices, energy bars, or even certain grains, without realizing they cause significant insulin spikes. Even artificial sweeteners can raise insulin in some individuals. It's not about obsessing over carbs, but becoming aware of which foods promote insulin and which keep it stable. Vegetables, healthy fats, and moderate amounts of clean protein help lower the insulin response and stabilize blood sugar. One reason why calorie restriction often fails in the long run is that it doesn't address insulin. You may eat less and lose weight temporarily, but if insulin remains high, your body is still in storage mode. Eventually, you'll regain the weight, and often more. But when you control insulin, fat loss becomes a natural byproduct of your body's biochemistry. You're not fighting your metabolism, you're working with it. Another overlooked factor is stress and sleep. Chronic stress increases cortisol, which raises blood sugar and in turn spikes insulin. Poor sleep disrupts insulin sensitivity and makes your body crave carbs. So managing stress and improving sleep are just as important as diet when it comes to insulin control. If your goal is to lose fat effectively and sustainably, focus less on counting calories and more on creating low insulin environments. That means eliminating sugar and refined carbs, eating fewer meals per day, and emphasizing real whole foods that don't trigger an insulin spike. When insulin drops, your body is finally allowed to access and burn the fat it's been holding on to for years. When it comes to building muscle, the conversation often revolves around how much protein you need, but quantity alone isn't enough. The quality of the protein, specifically its amino acid profile, determines whether your body can truly build and preserve lean muscle. At the center of this process is one powerful amino acid, leucine. This branched-chain amino acid is the most critical trigger for muscle protein synthesis, MPS, the process by which your body repairs and builds new muscle tissue. Leucine acts like a key that turns on the engine of muscle growth. Without enough leucine in your meal, even if you're consuming enough protein by grams, you may not be triggering the necessary signal to build muscle. In fact, studies show that a minimum threshold of leucine, about 2.5 to 3 grams per meal, is needed to stimulate MPS, especially in older adults. This means if you're over 40 or 50, your body's anabolic response to protein is blunted, and you need more leucine per meal to get the same muscle building effect you might have gotten in your 20s. Leucine-rich foods are typically animal-based proteins. Think grass-fed beef, eggs, pasture-raised poultry, wild-caught fish, and high-quality whey protein. These sources not only contain all the essential amino acids, but have the right leucine concentration to actually turn on the muscle-building signal inside your cells. In contrast, plant proteins, while useful, are often lower in leucine and may require much larger servings or combinations to reach the same anabolic threshold. When you consume a meal with enough leucine, it activates a cellular pathway called mTOR, mechanistic target of rapamycin. mTOR is the master controller of cell growth, repair, and regeneration. Activating mTOR through leucine-rich protein is essential not only for increasing muscle mass, but also for preserving existing muscle as you age. This is critical because muscle is metabolically protective. It burns more calories at rest, improves glucose regulation, supports joint health, and even plays a role in cognitive and immune function. Timing also matters. One of the best windows to consume leucine-rich protein is first thing in the morning after a fasting period or post-resistance training, when the body is most sensitive to nutrient intake. This is when muscle cells are primed to absorb amino acids and initiate repair. Skipping protein in the morning or after a workout is one of the biggest missed opportunities for muscle preservation and growth, especially for older adults who are already experiencing age muscle decline. It's also important to avoid spreading your protein intake too thin throughout the day. Many people consume very little protein at breakfast and lunch, then overcompensate with a large dinner. This pattern fails to provide enough leucine at key times and doesn't optimize muscle protein synthesis. Instead, aim for 20-40 grams of high-quality protein per meal, ensuring you're getting at least 2.5 grams of leucine in each serving. A properly structured protein intake pattern supports continuous repair, growth, and metabolic health. Another factor that influences how your body uses protein is insulin sensitivity. Elevated insulin, often from excess carbohydrate consumption, can impair amino acid uptake in muscle tissue. This means that simply eating protein is not enough. You also need to maintain stable insulin levels so the protein you consume actually gets used for muscle repair and not diverted due to metabolic dysfunction. Lowering carbs, increasing healthy fats, and eating in an intermittent fasting pattern can dramatically enhance your body's response to protein. While supplements like whey protein isolate can be helpful in reaching your leucine goals, they should never replace real food. Real food proteins come with a complete matrix of cofactors like creatine, iron, B12, and zinc that further support muscle metabolism and energy production. If you do choose a supplement, ensure it's clean, low carb, and free of artificial ingredients with a focus on the leucine content per serving. Building muscle through nutrition is not about eating more, it's about eating smart. The key is targeting anabolic triggers like leucine, maximizing nutrient timing, and combining it with insulin-sensitive metabolism. When you do this consistently, your body naturally shifts towards strength, recovery, and metabolic resilience. You preserve muscle, lose fat more efficiently, and age with strength rather than weakness. For decades, fat was demonized as the enemy of health, blamed for everything from heart disease to obesity. But as science evolved, one thing became abundantly clear: fat is not your enemy, especially when it comes to testosterone production, muscle recovery, and long-term vitality. In fact, avoiding healthy fats can actually sabotage your ability to lose fat and gain muscle, particularly as you age. Your hormones depend on fat not just as fuel, but as raw material for synthesis and function. Testosterone, for example, is a fat deregular hormone. It's made from cholesterol, a substance that has been unfairly vilified. If you deprive your body of healthy dietary fats, you're cutting off the very building blocks needed to produce this crucial hormone. And testosterone isn't just about sex drive or masculinity. It plays a massive role in muscle growth, energy, recovery, fat burning, and mental clarity. As men and women age, testosterone levels naturally decline, but that drop accelerates when fat intake is too low, especially saturated and monounsaturated fats. One of the key distinctions to understand is the difference between healthy fats and damaged fats. Healthy fats include grass-fed animal fats, pastured egg yolks, wild-caught fish rich in omega-3s, extra virgin olive oil, avocados, coconut oil, and raw nuts and seeds. These provide essential fatty acids that support cell membrane integrity, hormone signaling, and reduce inflammation. On the flip side, damaged fats like trans fats, refined vegetable oils, canola, soybean, corn, and hydrogenated oils are pro-inflammatory, oxidative, and disrupt cellular communication. These are the real enemies. When you consume adequate, healthy fats, your body gains access to the raw materials it needs to build hormones and repair tissues. This is especially important for recovery after training. Every cell membrane in your body is composed of fat. And without the right types of fat, your recovery slows down, inflammation increases, and you begin to feel drained rather than revitalized after exercise. Fats are not just energy, they are structure, communication, and repair. In addition, healthy fats help stabilize blood sugar by slowing the absorption of glucose into the bloodstream. This is critical for avoiding insulin spikes and crashes that not only impair fat loss, but disrupt muscle repair and hormonal balance. A meal that includes protein and fat keeps you fuller longer, reduces cravings, and creates the kind of metabolic environment that favors both fat burning and muscle maintenance. Many people make the mistake of going on low-fat diets in an attempt to lose weight, especially as they get older. But these diets can backfire, leading to fatigue, hormonal imbalances, mood swings, and loss of lean body mass. Instead of cutting fat, focus on cutting sugar and refined carbs, which are the real culprits behind metabolic dysfunction. Pairing healthy fats with clean proteins and non-starchy vegetables is a far more effective strategy for long-term fat loss and hormonal health. Cholesterol also plays a role in cortisol regulation, immune function, and brain health. If your diet is too low in cholesterol-rich foods, such as egg yolks and liver, you risk not only low testosterone, but also increased stress and cognitive decline. This becomes even more relevant for men and women over 40 when natural hormone production begins to slow. Rather than suppress cholesterol, the better approach is to reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, which can oxidize cholesterol and make it dangerous. The source and context of the fat matter more than the fat itself. It's also important to realize that testosterone isn't just about the quantity produced, but how effectively it's used. Inflammatory diets, high cortisol, poor sleep, and insulin resistance all impair the body's ability to utilize testosterone. Healthy fats combat these stressors by supporting the adrenals, reducing systemic inflammation, and aiding in cellular signaling. They help your body respond to testosterone more effectively, not just produce it. When trying to build muscle and recover efficiently, you need to think of fat as a partner in the process. It supports anabolic hormones, stabilizes energy, and enhances nutrient absorption, particularly of fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K, all of which play vital roles in recovery and regeneration. Without fat, these vitamins can't do their job, and your muscle gains and metabolic improvements will be severely limited. By incorporating healthy fats into your meals, whether it's a few eggs cooked in grass-fed butter, a piece of salmon with olive oil, or a handful of macadamia nuts, you're not indulging, you're investing. You're building the internal environment necessary to support muscle, hormones, metabolism, and long-term vitality. Most people focus solely on what to eat for fat loss and muscle gain, and while food quality is undeniably crucial, when you eat can be just as important. Nutrient timing isn't just a strategy for elite athletes, it's a powerful metabolic tool for anyone looking to optimize body composition, energy levels, hormone function, and recovery, especially after age 40 or 50 when metabolism and hormonal resilience begin to decline. The body's internal rhythms, particularly insulin sensitivity, cortisol patterns, and anabolic hormone release, fluctuate based on time of day, which means the same food can have different effects depending on when you eat it. In the morning, the body is in a fasted state. Insulin is naturally low, growth hormone is elevated, and the body is primed for fat burning. And this is why many people are now practicing intermittent fasting, not just to reduce calories, but to extend this fat burning window. Delaying your first meal by a few hours, for example, starting your eating window around noon, can help reduce insulin spikes and improve metabolic flexibility. This gives your body more time to tap into fat stores and encourages autophagy, a cellular cleanup process that becomes more important with age. However, what you break your fast with matters just as much. A meal rich in high-quality protein, especially leucine-rich sources like eggs, whey, or grass-fed meat, along with healthy fats and low-starch vegetables, will not only stabilize blood sugar, but also stimulate muscle protein synthesis. This is critical for older adults who experience anabolic resistance and need more of a stimulus to maintain lean mass. Avoid breaking your fast with high-carb, low-protein meals as they spike insulin and shut off fat burning prematurely. Around the time you exercise, particularly within 30 to 60 minutes post-workout, your body is more insulin sensitive, meaning it can shuttle nutrients like glucose and amino acids into the muscle cells more efficiently. This is the optimal time for a meal that combines protein and some healthy carbohydrates. A grass-fed steak with sweet potato or wild salmon with quinoa and greens can promote muscle repair and replenish glycogen stores. Post-workout meals are especially important for preserving lean tissue and speeding recovery, particularly if you're over 40 and more prone to catabolism. In the evening, the body's insulin sensitivity begins to decline. This means that heavy, carbohydrate-dense meals late at night are more likely to be stored as fat. Cortisol should also be tapering off by this point, preparing the body for rest and recovery. Consuming large or sugar-heavy meals at night can disrupt sleep, impair growth hormone secretion, and worsen insulin resistance. Instead, your last meal of the day should be lighter and focused on clean proteins, fats, and fiber-rich vegetables, which help balance blood sugar and support deeper, more restorative sleep. Another key aspect of nutrient timing is meal spacing. Constant grazing and snacking throughout the day keep insulin elevated and prevent fat oxidation. Eating fewer, more nutrient-dense meals, ideally 2 or 3 per day, creates hormonal gaps where insulin can drop and your body can switch into repair and fat-burning mode. This approach not only helps with weight loss, but also reduces inflammation and supports mitochondrial function. The circadian rhythm also plays a role. Your metabolism, digestion, and insulin sensitivity are all regulated by your internal body clock. Eating in alignment with this rhythm, with meals during daylight hours and fasting through the night, enhances hormonal balance and supports metabolic health. Late night eating, on the other hand, disrupts melatonin production, increases cortisol, and creates a mismatch between your feeding window and your biological clock. Over time, this mismatch can lead to weight gain, insulin resistance, and poor recovery. For those over 50, when anabolic hormones like testosterone and growth hormone are in natural decline, timing protein intake becomes essential. You want to space out your protein across meals rather than consuming it all at once. This ensures a steady supply of amino acids and helps preserve muscle mass, which is the key determinant of metabolic health and longevity in later life. Targeting 20-40 grams of high-quality protein at each meal, depending on your body size and goals, is a smart strategy. Nutrient timing isn't about obsessing over the clock. It's about aligning your eating habits with your body's natural rhythms to amplify the effects of clean nutrition. Eating the right foods at the right times can maximize energy, improve recovery, lower inflammation, and accelerate both fat loss and muscle gain. When it comes to losing fat and building muscle, most people think only in terms of macronutrients, protein, fats, and carbohydrates. But what often gets overlooked is the powerful role of micronutrients. These are the vitamins, minerals, and trace elements that determine how well your body actually uses the macronutrients you consume. Without micronutrient density, your performance, metabolism, hormonal health, and fat-burning capacity all suffer. The body doesn't just need calories. It needs the raw materials to run the cellular machinery that governs energy, repair, detoxification, and regeneration. Micronutrients are like the spark plugs in an engine. You can have all the fuel you want, but without those tiny sparks, nothing ignites. Magnesium, for example, is required for over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, including ATP production, the very fuel your cells use to perform. B vitamins are necessary for energy metabolism and red blood cell formation. Zinc is crucial for testosterone production and immune function. Iron helps transport oxygen to working muscles. Selenium supports thyroid health, and yet most people are unknowingly deficient in several of these, especially as they age. When micronutrient levels are suboptimal, metabolism slows down. The mitochondria, the little energy factories inside your cells, begin to function less efficiently. They burn less fat and generate more oxidative stress. This leads to fatigue, poor recovery, mental fog, and a sluggish fat-burning process. You may feel like your body is fighting you, but in reality, it's starving for the nutrients it needs to run cleanly and efficiently. This is why micronutrient density should be the foundation of any serious nutrition plan, especially if your goals involve performance and body recomposition. High-quality whole foods are the richest sources of micronutrients. Leafy greens like spinach and kale provide magnesium, folate, and potassium. Organ meats like liver are loaded with B12, iron, and vitamin A in its most bioavailable form. Seafood offers iodine, selenium, and omega-3 fatty acids. Nuts and seeds are rich in zinc and vitamin E. Eggs contain choline, lutein, and sulfur. Contrast this with processed foods, which are calorie-rich but nutrient-poor, flooding the body with energy but offering no real tools for repair or optimization. As you age, the body becomes less efficient at absorbing and utilizing nutrients. Your digestive enzymes may decline, stomach acid may drop, and chronic stress can further impair nutrient uptake. That's why older adults have an even higher need for micronutrient-dense foods. It's not just about eating enough, it's about absorbing and utilizing what you eat. This is also where gut health becomes vital. If your gut is inflamed or imbalanced, your nutrient absorption will be compromised no matter how clean your diet is. Micronutrients also play a major role in hormone regulation. For example, vitamin D is not just a vitamin, it's a hormone precursor. Low levels of vitamin D have been linked to insulin resistance, obesity, and poor muscle function. Similarly, zinc and magnesium are essential for maintaining optimal testosterone levels, which affect everything from fat distribution to muscle retention. Without adequate micronutrients, hormone imbalances develop, and that makes it exponentially harder to lose fat or build lean mass, no matter how disciplined your training or calorie tracking may be. Another overlooked factor is that micronutrients influence appetite and cravings. When the body's deficient in certain minerals like chromium or magnesium, it may send false hunger signals leading you to overeat. Many people are not hungry for calories, they are hungry for nutrients. When you prioritize micronutrient density, your hunger becomes more manageable, your energy levels rise, and you gain metabolic flexibility. You're no longer driven by blood sugar swings or dopamine-seeking behavior, but instead operate from a place of balance and efficiency. To truly optimize body composition and performance, think in terms of nutrient per calorie ratio. Choose foods that give you the highest amount of usable vitamins and minerals for the least amount of metabolic stress. This is why a small serving of wild-caught sardines is more beneficial than a massive bowl of pasta. One nourishes your system, the other simply fills your stomach. Focus on nutrient synergy as well, like pairing fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, K, with healthy fats to enhance absorption, or combining vitamin C-rich foods with iron sources to boost bioavailability. Supplements can help, but they should never replace real food. Nutrients from food come in complex matrices that interact synergistically. For example, whole vegetables provide fiber, enzymes, cofactors, and phytonutrients that aren't found in isolated pills. If you do use supplements, they should be targeted and high quality, ideally based on actual deficiencies or functional testing. But the base of your micronutrient intake should always come from clean, ancestral foods that have been consumed by humans for generations. In the end, fat loss and muscle gain are not just about burning calories or hitting protein targets. They're about creating a biochemically favorable environment where the body has everything it needs to thrive. Prioritizing micronutrient density ensures that your metabolism runs like a well-oiled machine, that your hormones stay balanced, and that every calorie you consume is put to productive use in building strength, vitality, and longevity. When most people think of fasting, they imagine starvation, weakness, or muscle loss. But the truth is, when done strategically, intermittent fasting is one of the most powerful ways to optimize your hormones, burn fat, and actually preserve lean muscle mass. It's not just about skipping meals, it's about aligning your eating patterns with your body's natural rhythms, especially when it comes to insulin, growth hormone, and protein synthesis. Growth hormone is the master anabolic hormone responsible for muscle repair, cellular regeneration, fat burning, and slowing the aging process. During fasting, particularly after 16 to 24 hours without food, the body dramatically increases its production of growth hormone. This isn't accidental, it's a built-in evolutionary mechanism. When food is scarce, your body doesn't want to break down muscle. It wants to preserve muscle and burn fat for fuel. That's what growth hormone allows: preservation of lean tissue and enhanced fat oxidation. Contrary to popular belief, muscle is not automatically lost during short-term fasting. In fact, fasting actually shifts your metabolism toward muscle sparing and fat burning. This happens because insulin drops during a fast. Insulin is an anabolic hormone, yes, but it also locks fat in storage. When insulin is low, your body is free to burn fat for fuel, and growth hormone steps in to protect your muscle tissue from catabolism. This is especially important for people over 40 when muscle preservation becomes more difficult due to declining hormone levels. The secret, though, is not just fasting, it's how you break your fast. That's where strategic refeeds come in. A refeed isn't a cheat day or a carb binge. It's a calculated, nutrient-dense meal designed to refuel your body, activate muscle protein synthesis, and replenish glycogen stores in the muscle without triggering excessive fat storage. It's not about spiking insulin. It's about using food as a tool to send a signal. Build, repair, grow. During a refeed, the focus should be on high leucine, complete proteins like eggs, grass-fed beef, wild-caught fish, or whey isolate. Leucine activates the mTOR pathway, which directly triggers muscle protein synthesis. This is the perfect time to eat your protein, not randomly throughout the day, but when your body is most receptive. You can also include nutrient-dense carbs like sweet potatoes or berries in small amounts, especially if you've just done resistance training to help refill glycogen without overloading insulin. Refeeds also help restore thyroid function and leptin levels, which can downregulate during extended fasting or low-calorie phases. Leptin is the hormone that tells your brain you're not starving. If you're in a deficit too long, leptin drops and metabolism slows down. A well-timed refeed reverses this, providing metabolic flexibility without fat gain. Intermittent fasting combined with resistance training is one of the most effective anti-aging strategies available. When you lift weights in a fasted state, your body becomes even more efficient at using growth hormone. You're forcing it to adapt to preserve and strengthen muscle fibers under stress, while simultaneously increasing mitochondrial density and fat oxidation. Then when you break your fast with targeted nutrition, you maximize recovery and growth. You're essentially hacking the body's survival mechanisms and turning them to tools for performance and longevity. It's also important to understand the timing of your refeeds. Most people benefit from 1 or 2 high-protein refeed meals after 16 to 20 hours of fasting. Others may do a 24-hour fast once or twice per week, followed by a larger nutrient-dense meal. The key is listening to your body and watching your metrics: energy, strength, sleep quality, mental clarity. When done correctly, fasting doesn't lead to depletion, it leads to regeneration. Micronutrients are also critical during your refeeds. Muscle repair requires magnesium, potassium, zinc, B vitamins, and antioxidants. Make sure your post-fast meals include leafy greens, sea salt, bone broth, or mineral-rich vegetables. This ensures that your cells have what they need to convert protein into muscle and support detoxification and hydration. What surprises most people is how fasting can actually reduce inflammation. Chronic inflammation makes it harder to recover, build muscle, and lose fat. Fasting gives your body a break from constant digestion and frees up resources for cellular repair and autophagy, your body's internal cleanup crew that breaks down damaged proteins and recycles them. The mental benefits of fasting also support muscle building indirectly. Increase focus, reduce cravings, better sleep, and lower cortisol allow for more consistent training and recovery. Chronic stress and elevated cortisol can break down muscle even in people who eat enough protein. Fasting resets the stress response, allowing your body to stay in a parasympathetic healing state when it's not actively training. Strategic refeeds also make fasting more sustainable. Many people fail with fasting because they don't know how to refeed correctly. They either undereat and crash or overeat and bloat. When you treat the refeed as an essential anabolic window, you create a sustainable rhythm: fast, train, refeed, recover, repeat. This cycle improves hormone sensitivity, reduces metabolic resistance, and encourages your body to prioritize muscle over fat, youth over age, function over dysfunction.